Greetings from Costa Rica, and welcome to this special Saturday Costa Rica real estate broadcast here. My name is Matt Rosensteel, and today I'm going to be talking about my predictions for 2025. This is my last broadcast of the year, and I want to give an idea of where I think the Costa Rica real estate market is headed in the coming 12 months. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to my channel, smash that like button. If you have any comments, questions, or concerns that you want to discuss during this broadcast or afterward, be sure to plug them into the chat. Again, appreciate you very much joining me today. Before I get started, as always, I want to mention that if you're looking for a very practical resource, with video information about moving to Costa Rica and real estate here, do be sure to visit costaricamatt.com, where you can request my VBook. My VBook is 19 videos. 9 of them are not available publicly, with some of the best information that I have on the Costa Rica real estate market. Let's talk about our agenda for today, and I'll just move over here since I don't have a fancier graphics program here. First and foremost, I'm going to go over briefly the market trajectory from 2020 to 24. Give some broader context as to where we stand today. Next, I'm going to hold myself accountable. We will watch the prediction that I made at the end of 2023 and see whether it turned out to be accurate or not. We're going to talk about whether or not that prediction was in line with reality and what actually happened here in Costa Rica. Next, we'll start talking about 2025 going forward. What will be the most important factors influencing the Costa Rica real estate market? And finally, we will get to my prediction for what you will see in 2025 for the Costa Rica real estate market. As always, if you are getting close to investing here in Guanacaste, you can also email me at matt@costaricamatt.com. Be pleased to help you in any way that I can. Always reminding folks out there that my opinions are based on my experience living and working here in Guanacaste, Costa Rica. Obviously, there's a nuanced picture throughout the country, but my experience is here in the northwestern part of the country. So let's first talk about the trajectory, the context for our market here at the end of 2024. Obviously, in 2020, the world was changed when the COVID pandemic shut down international travel for a lot of people. In Costa Rica, we went from getting about 1.6 million visitors. I'm sorry, over 2 million visitors in 2019. Those are tourists arriving by air, to under 500,000 in 2020 because the country shut down its borders from March up through November of 2020. Now, as soon as things reopened in the end of 2020, beginning in 2021, you saw an absolute rush of people moving to Costa Rica, looking to invest here, vacationing here. Those tourism numbers quickly bounced back. As an example, we had that minimum of just 500,000 arriving by air in 2020. Yes, that was because the airports were shut down for about 8 months. In 2022, we were already back up at about 1.8 million tourists arriving by air. In 23, we peaked 2.2 million tourists. And in 2024, you saw 2.5 million tourists arrive through Costa Rica's airports, and they're expecting that number to go even higher. So really, in 2024, as things stand now, the real estate market has tracked that to a large degree. We've had a frenzy in 2022 and 23, and really you've still seen steady demand in 2024 that we'll talk about a little bit further as we go along here. Let's now talk about what I was predicting what 2024 would be like at the end of 2023. And for no better resource on that subject than myself, let's pull up my YouTube clip here from 2023. Oh, sorry, it's over on this side here. Anyhow, here's what I had to say in December 2023 as to what I saw the year looking like here in 2024. If I had to sum up my prediction for 2024, I am actually optimistic that Costa Rica real estate will still be in the same dynamic, by and large, between buyers and sellers at the end of 2024, which is to say, I don't see a huge disturbance for Costa Rica real estate for a couple reasons. Primarily, lots of people are saying that the economy should hold itself together next year. And even with all the other possibilities for Black Swan events or political tension, this, that, the other, what I've found consistently is that most people are willing to buy real estate in Costa Rica when they feel stable about their economic situation at home. Yes, you will have some people who decide to buy here if political candidate X wins, or you'll have some people decide to buy here if political candidate XXXXX wins. However, I've consistently seen that the kinds of emotion that people have when they come saying, oh, I can't possibly live in a country that's run by that or this person, lots of those folks don't actually have the gusto and the real long-term motivation that it takes to move to Costa Rica. And well, I'm glad I was right about the economic situation and the fact that no Black Swan event derailed things and dramatically changed the Costa Rica economy or the international global economy in 2024. And I'm happy to say that by and large, I was absolutely right in terms of the market activity that we've seen here in 2024, which you could absolutely define as stable compared to 2023. Now, how can we judge that? Well, obviously, we have testimony from other realtors in the area. We've got a lot of people discussing this. One easy way to look at 2024 versus 23 is by looking at the Coldwell Banker Costa Rica results from both years, because our brokerage has a dozen franchises throughout Costa Rica. And in terms of the expat, that foreigner real estate market, our business has a very good bead, a barometer on how things are performing. We had the same franchises in 23 that we do in 2024. And if we check out the annual report through November for 2024 versus 2023, you see a 7% change in overall transaction volume. Now, yes, it's unfortunate to see that the market slacked off and that there was 7% less transaction volume happening. However, 7% when we're talking about the fluctuations that a luxury international real estate market can see, 7% is a very small fluctuation. And in fact, it really encapsulates that stability from 2023 to 2024. And I feel confident saying that the demand among foreigners for Costa Rica real estate, and especially in these markets where we have Coldwell Banker franchises, that demand has stayed very steady from 23 until 24, based on the results that we are seeing. So very much that 2024 prediction, stable conditions, and overall the same results turned out to be true. As you might notice, I'm a very cautious person, and I didn't exactly make a huge leap and guess that things were going to go crazy or change one direction or the other. I do want to mention also that so far, I very much feel that my prediction related to political tension has begun to pan out as of December 28th here, 2024. In that, yes, we received a lot of emails from people right on November 5th. Tons of people who were worried about political outcomes and what they were going to be doing the next 4 years. That has not necessarily converted as of yet into a wave of people actually moving. Yes, the emotion there was definitely rising again, where a lot of people thought they would be moving abroad, but you haven't seen an absolute wave of people just taking the plunge right now and moving forward with their decision to get out of the United States or Canada or wherever it is. Howdy to you as well, Michelangelo. Thank you very much for joining us. So let's talk a little bit about 2025 and what the most important factors for the Costa Rica real estate market will be. First and foremost, obviously, the overarching factor, the most important driver for the Costa Rica real estate market, and especially the market for foreigners purchasing real estate, will always be the United States economy. And in 2025, if you try to get a general summary of what economists think, most think that there, yes, are always risks associated with different piles of debt that are out there. There's all kinds of risk associated with different global conflicts, etc. But still that they do think there's only a less than 50% chance of a major recession in 2025. Now, I really don't want to speculate. I absolutely don't want to guess as to whether I see something crashing the US economy in 2025. Personally, I can't believe that we've had a cycle that's been this long with as much positive economic activity as we've seen. I know we had the 2020 hiccup, but I don't know how interest rates changed so radically without a greater effect on the economy overall. I know that the answer has something to do with printing money, but anyhow, I just mean to focus you on the fact that the US economy and its health define the Costa Rica real estate market more than any other factor. And I would still say that it defines the market more than any political tension or possible political fallout. Again, not only do people get overly emotional and say they're going to do things that they aren't actually going to do, but I think that over the coming year, at the very least, a lot of the people who said they would move out of a country if X or Y happened, they aren't going to necessarily see an absolutely day and night change in their personal lives that drives them to move to Costa Rica. So I very much feel that the emotional forces that were driving people after COVID were far stronger than the emotional forces that will be driving people to look abroad in our current moment. And so at least if we're talking about relative demand from foreigners, you're going to see a continued slight slackening of that relative demand compared to 2022 and 23. So let's get on and talk a little bit about what I actually think is going to happen in this 2025 real estate market here in Costa Rica. And to do this, I want to bring up a rough chart that I've completely invented here just for illustrative purposes and for nothing else. So let's imagine we're just looking at supply and demand of Costa Rica real estate that foreigners are interested in purchasing specifically. Because obviously I've got a specific audience and I'm trying to keep this information as relevant as possible. Let's first look at just an idea of the supply of this real estate over time. In 2000 and until 2010, the supply, all kinds of construction was happening. The supply was exploding as developers raced to meet demand of foreigners who were arriving in Guanacaste on international flights and to a greater degree in San Jose. you saw inventory then almost stagnate 100% for close to 10 years. From 2010 to 2020, again, this is not a precise graph. These are not actual data points. It's meant to express the idea that your inventory of available real estate stayed almost 100% the same in that decade because no one was building given the absolute collapse of demand from foreigners. Now let's look again at adding demand into this picture. Our blue line here is demand from 2000 or thereabouts through 2021. As you can see, demand tacked right along with supply up until the 2010 financial crisis. It plummeted in 2010, so you had for a long time a large disconnect between supply and demand. That gap between those two lines was bigger and buyers could find bigger discounts on the final price. Boy, my economics teachers would be so proud at seeing all of this. But essentially in 2020, again, you saw demand shoot through the roof and now exceed anything that you've previously witnessed in Guanacaste, where in 22 and 23, you had more foreigners interested in investing in real estate here by far than you did prior to 2009. And really demand had absolutely just gone through the roof. So here's where we get to what I think is currently the dynamic that we're going to see begin happening. So in 2020, one of the things I should have mentioned here on just the supply curve is that absolutely developers, since we got our rush in 2021, 2, and 3, you've seen developers just start to bulldoze through building new projects as fast as possible. In Tamarindo, there are 3 new condo projects. You see driving from Tamarindo to Playa Avellanas, an absolutely new residential development called Yugen or Yugen, Jugen, Yugen. You see 4 or 5 new residential projects in Avellanas itself. All over the coast, these places have opened their doors for sale. They're moving forward with projects now because they saw a huge surge in 22 and 23. So this, once again, supply is quickly increasing. And what I fear for developers and investors might start happening in 24 and 25 is really that you're going to start seeing that the supply exceeds demand, especially in cases, and I'm afraid to refer to a place so close by, but for example, in Playa Avellanas, just to the north of where I am right now, you have so much new residential development being offered that it would have to be an absolutely boom year in 2025. You would have to see absolutely extraordinary demand for all of those to developers to be able to sell a substantial part of what they're offering. I'm talking about developments like New Mandi, where I think they have over 70 homes that they're offering. All told, the development in Avellanas is going to be hundreds of homes that are currently offered and for sale. Right now, what I see is that the demand from foreigners, yes, is going to continue. Rather, it's not going to increase enough to absorb that extra supply. And in particular, I want to discuss another factor that, we did have that huge surge in buying in 21, 2, and 3. Well, there is a Costa Rica churn for foreigners who own here. You've seen many videos by people talking about how quickly a lot of expats end up selling and going home. Well, a lot of those folks who rushed down here emotionally during COVID or shortly thereafter are starting to realize that perhaps Costa Rica wasn't the best idea for them. And they're also starting to add their home to the inventory pool, now reselling and moving back to the United States or Canada. So in 2025, I actually don't see that the gross amount of demand from foreigners for Costa Rica real estate is going to shift too greatly. We have another impulse, another reason people feel they want to come down here that's somewhat similar of an emotional driver to the aftermath of COVID. However, you also have the COVID effect wearing off, and you've seen now that the inventory that's being created in the places that foreigners want to move, I think is going to far outstrip that gross demand that will be a relatively stable amount to 2024. Now, obviously, if in February we get a major stock market crash in the United States, if we have another type of Black Swan event where all of a sudden either oil prices shoot through the roof, the US government shuts down for some reason, and treasury debt becomes a problem, X, Y, or Z event rattles the international economy, yes, you would immediately see a dramatic pause and stagnation in the Costa Rica real estate market, and anybody looking to sell out of the market would definitely be they would definitely have an issue. So that begs the question, are we currently in a bubble? Your prices in Costa Rica and some places in Guanacaste have gone up as much as 400% in the last 4 years. You've seen some absolutely crazy things. A luxury home that sold for $3.4 million at the beginning of 2023 just closed somewhere near $8.5 million, its asking price, and it went under contract in under 1 week. Now, that was a luxury beachfront scarce prime property that, yes, you're still seeing those absolutely crazy things happen on the luxury end. But in general, you're seeing signs that all of those prices where we reached a certain level in 2024, a lot of those ocean view homes, the real luxury items that are in the $2 to $4 million price range, some of those condos that came on the market at $600,000 to $1 million, what used to be considered a luxury price point is now really sort of a standard price that you see for any new condo being built. Demand at those higher prices is nowhere near what it was when we had a lot of inventory down at $300,000, $400,000, and $500,000. And so, yes, you have seen some resistance from the market to these price points. However, I want to remind people that there's a difference between a bubble, which can pop, and the conditions that we have here in the Costa Rica real estate market. Importantly, almost everybody who owns their real estate and is selling owns their property outright in cash. And you don't have the same dynamic that can create a popping bubble when all of a sudden, if things don't sell quick enough, banks are taking over properties quickly, and you're getting a very fast turnaround where all of a sudden people have to sell in order to get out from under their debt payments. Instead, what you see, since people own their properties in cash, is that they will resist, hold out, and wait for a better market in order to be able to sell their inventory. So although, yes, we have seen resistance to prices, and yes, I think you're going to see that a lot of the high ticket items don't sell as fast as developers hope. This isn't and never will be that same type of situation where everybody is leveraged on their property and absolutely has to get rid of it the moment that it's not paying for itself anymore. Here in Guanacaste, most of the developers if they had a good business plan and if they understand their market, came into their project with a much longer business plan than just surviving through 2025, or at least knocking on wood, I hope most of them did. So instead of seeing developers immediately panic, slash their prices, and offer great deals, unfortunately for buyers, you're going to see a lot of them resist, sit on their pricing, and only do symbolic reductions in their pricing to try and start attracting buyers as the year wears on. Most of them should not be in a position where they are panicking by the end of 2025 if they haven't seen good sales. And so rather than waiting for developers to suddenly offer fire sales, I think more than anything, if you're a buyer trying to take advantage of a market where things are slacking off, you need to be flexible in what you're looking for and ready to seek sellers who are getting more motivated than the rest of their crowd. In Guanacaste, you will see certain sellers all of a sudden with huge motivation for whatever reason. If you're a patient buyer out there, I think just like in 2024, as you started to see some deals emerge, yes, because we're entering a market where that slackening demand won't keep up with the exploding inventory, I think you can patiently wait for good deals to become available. If you're flexible on what you want to buy, it will allow you the greatest leverage in waiting out sellers and seeing who will be the most motivated with time. And I do think that those patient buyers out there in 2025 are going to see a lot of people come into the market who perhaps overpaid for their property in 2022 and 2023, who are now looking to get out of Costa Rica due to that churn. Yes, because they overpaid for that property in many cases over the last 2 years, you're not going to see bargains coming on the market quickly. You're going to see high price tags. But again, 2025 will be a year for patience, unless, of course, you're interested in my listings, in which case they are all urgently going to sell immediately here in January. You should reach out to me immediately by email, matt@costaricamat.com, to get a better idea of what I have available for you. Thanks very much for joining me today and this year, folks. I greatly appreciate my YouTube audience. I greatly appreciate my clients out there, the folks who have made it possible for me to put bread on the table for my family. Here's to a successful 2025. Good health for everybody. Cheers and adios.